it's called the case of the wager case. I don't know if you know the Jenkins the war about Jenkins' ear. It was a war between the UK and Spain in 1839. It was about taking over the South American and Caribbean trade, but it all started with the captain of the Jenkins was taken to a duel by a Spanish officer, and he got his the ear cut off, and he was going around the Great Britain showing his ear, but to show how brutal the Spanish are. And this converged with the King George wanting to start a war. It was about the trade between the Pacific and Atlantic, and it occurred to be a good casus belli. The wager case. The story was the following: in the 1940, in November, a ship, or rather a rescue boat with 20 people on the deck came ashore in Brazil. These were the crew of the ship called Wager, which sunk near the Horn Peninsula. They were rescued by miracle. They were drifting for months, and they came to the shore from south to the north. And generally in the UK, it was treated like a miracle. They became heroes. They were widely spoken about. Were it not for the fact that to Chile, another boat came with 3 people on board, and those 3 people said that the 20 are mutineers from the ship, and they started mutiny, and they should have been hanged. And a big case really started, a big court case started, which took for a very long time, because, of course, they were blaming each other. I'm talking about this because the wager case was telling what in reality was the British Empire, and how in the British Empire sailors were treated. Very quickly, the British realized on the side, talking about this on the set, that the captains who keep their people very harshly their people are much less effective than with captains who are very close to their crews. I think it's the same on the filming set. But coming back to the wager, even until today, we don't know what really happened on the ship. This book was written by Grant. It was the same man who, whenever he writes a book, it gets filmed by Scorsese. Probably this one will be filmed by Scorsese too. It is a book based on the research, but it's a book based on the research in such a way that I believe that it departs from a certain point, which should also be a point of departure for every scriptwriter, because if Scorsese proves this right, there is a truth on this side and there's a truth on the other side. I think that writing a script consists in you don't give a full truth to anyone. You're not stating in any way the justice with your scripts. You're not saying one side has a truth and the other side have a truth. When they get into conflict between themselves, this is when a good script takes place. A good script, this is my belief. However, I do also feel that in Poland it is so that many scripts are made out of anecdotes. In my view, anecdote is in no way the start of a script. If somebody told me concerning the case I was telling you about, a ship sank. 20 got to Brazil. The other one got to Chile. There was a court case. It's just an anecdote. We just need to know now who were the 20 people who left and the 20 who survived. This is what Grant deals with in this book, and that's why Scorsese enters those books, because the motor of every story is a human. You start to write from a character. In Poland, it changes slowly. You start to write from the character, but I do believe that not many people who's writing and many people who read, they do not know what does it mean to start from a character. The character starts to live its own life. It's as if an actor works on its role. At some point, the character starts to take over the narration, and it knows what it has to do. Now the research is the basis for this character to be as credible as possible and as much work as you would like to, or as it would want to work. So the research is just to give credibility to your story. So when I think about it in a general way, I noted certain things for myself. I do feel that there is, in the historiography of the world, there was a certain paradigm change. We moved away from the history of events towards more like a social history. I don't know why, we didn't process that properly yet in Poland. We are still in the history of events. We still talk about events, and we still want to make movies about events. This event, that event, but the movies which are really interesting are not an event, because movie is not an event. Movie is a human in a situation. You talk story. You tell movies by situations and not by events. Only a person connected with an event makes a situation, and then you have a movie. I'm telling quite often that you get a lot of biopics made in Poland. I don't want to say which biopics I like, which I don't, but all the biopics in Poland are very similar to one another. And they're very different from the biopics that are being made in the world, which are made by Americans, for example. I'm not even talking about art house biopics from Europe, because they have their own rules. But let's talk about American biopics, which are in wide distribution around in the cinemas. And I always give you an example of Moneyball, which I love. I don't know if you've seen that movie. Moneyball tells a story about a sports director of one team and a statistician whom he hired to change the team. It's actually a movie about baseball without baseball. It's a film about people who are in the background, behind the scenes. In Poland, it would be very difficult to sell a movie, to put it very bluntly, like Moneyball. Why? Because initially it was no. Let's make a movie. Let's make a movie about the guy who was the star of the team. Let's make it about baseball. So there should be a lot of baseball. They should play there and let them get to the finals. And the team does not get to the finals. They had the record series, but they don't make it to the finals. But that's not what the story is about. It's not a story about baseball. It's a story about a human who came up with something. Actually, two humans who came up with something, and those people were living in such a way that baseball, the match was not interesting for them. So if they were not interested in the match itself, so they don't have to watch that match, and I don't have to watch that as the viewer either. Another film which starts from a character, it's also a sports film because that's an easy reference, is the Raging Bull. If you look at the Raging Bull if you analyze it, how the fights are carried out there, the Raging Bull does not have this typical structure of the boxer movie. Like Jake LaMotta lost, and now he has to get back to the top. He he finds like another boss on the top, fighting for the championship who never won before, and he's on the turning point of his life. He starts to fight. The fight has its drama. He's hit 3 times. He lies, falls down. He has one lucky punch, and he destroys the big boss, and he becomes the boss. Yeah, this is the classical story about the boxer movie. With Scorsese, what you can see that the fights are aside. They taking place somewhere, but it's not a movie about boxing. It's a film about a man who had one dream. He wanted to be a comedian. He wanted to be a comedian, but he became a fighter. So he went into fighting because he was good at this. He was in the ring. People saw them, but he never felt fulfilled because he really wanted to be a comedian. In box, he had an initial problem that his hands were small. So everybody who train box, that it's a problem because you have less of a knockouting power. Such approach to the protagonist in Poland is still not popular. We want to have something higher, bigger, that the drama, we are more concerned with the external drama rather than the drama of a person in a situation. But it also stems from the fact that in order to write a story well, we should write it based on the research. Why? Because a well-written story for me is a story that lies well. What we're doing, we're lying. Because we have to lie, but the lie is better as much as it is close. It gets better the closer to the truth you are. The closer you are to credibility and to human, we learn his motivation or her motivations. We see them, we talk to them, we try to enter their world, the easier it will be for us to lie to everybody at the end. Because at the end of the day, we will have to change the facts, we will have to tweak something. But I do not believe totally in coming up with a movie, a feature movie, in the meaning, it's not the best term, but like in a storytelling sense. So a film which is not an impression, or which is not a very art house, static expression, but a movie that tells a story. I think that telling a good story with the help of imagination itself is very difficult. I think it might be impossible. I can't do it. What I'm driven by getting as close as possible to the story. I can give you examples here. I can tell you about my case in the High Water and Heweliusz. In case of High Water, Ania Kępińska called me and said, "Let's make a series about the flood." Okay, yeah. A series about the flood. So what? I mean, flood. What a flood is like. You can see. You don't know what to do with the flood. It's just water spilling out. And then when I started to do the research, then I started to look for various things, and we had plenty of ideas. I told you already that there was I was supposed to have a journalist as a protagonist. It was supposed to take place in Wrocław, and further on, at some point we came to this main conflict that was that between the villages that were supposed to be submerged and Wrocław that was supposed to be saved on their expense. So when we went there to those villages, we started to meet those people, and by hearing their reaction, how they explained their position, we understood that the story is there. That we have a story ready. It was similar with Heweliusz. I really wanted to do Heweliusz because I can tell you that it occurred later, but it sort of somehow stayed in my head that the family of the Heweliusz's captain was living very close to me in Ursynów in Warsaw. the captain's daughter was in the same school as I was. I learned that when I was making research. I never knew why I want to make a research, why I want to write about Heveliusz. I think I remembered well this catastrophe, but we remember various things. And I think with Heveliusz it was so that the story, because I heard something at school, I had it implanted somewhere in the back of my head that it had to resonate with me. But this is not a reason. I mean, it is one of the reasons to become more observant and to search. So we went to the first research. We met with the captain's Levit captain's wife or captain's widow, and during the first 15 minutes, I knew we have a show. We have a TV show. I can't tell you what she told me because I will spoil the whole series for you, but it was something that, well, made me think, if I didn't hear that and somebody told me that, they would say it's such a this is impossible to have happened, and but it really happened. And then I realized that we have the whole series, the whole axis of the show. It is over 5 hours long, and it has only 5 episodes. So every episode is almost 1 hour long. I knew that from the very outset. How did I know? And I can think I can share it with you. I know where I have a good conflict. When a good conflict appears in a script of a story, I know that the story is there. People with whom I've worked, they know that for me, there are 2 methods of writing a script. One is through a conflict, and the other one is through building. Like, we either have a conflict and it sort of drives the story and leads the storytelling, or we have a film, we want to say something about fatherhood, and we are imagining which sort of setups discuss sort of work on the fatherhood, and how we build the scenes, that this fatherhood can be like this and then like that, and we put one layer over the other, and this is how we build the script. For me, the second method is always an auxiliary one. I always write things through a conflict, but everybody can choose the way they prefer. However, neither one nor the other method is not able to work without a good preparation, a good research. Because I wrote here for myself that for me, writing a script has 4 stages. And I recommend that to everyone. Of course, it's a bit painstaking. You can have a situation like Skolimowski had with some of his movies, that he wrote very quickly. That they were written in 26 hours, but these films are, when it comes to Skolimowski, they're very autobiographical. They're very specific movies, and they sort of responded to the requests of the new wave. So the writing was a bit different, but I do think that Skolimowski also knew what he was writing about. So his research was done before, and the writing maybe was short because the writing itself is short. And for me, the 4 stages are: the first one is research, the second one are outlines, also called treatments, maybe scene breakdowns. For me, outline is a very broadened scene breakdown, which is almost a script without a dialogue. Some dialogues are already provided, which is a certain document for me, that if after writing an outline I was hit by a car, anybody could write that script later. So writing a script itself is a short thing. The third one is a script, which you write, and the 4th stage of working on the script is working with the crew and the cast. The 4th stage is very important. It's good when you learn that stage and you know how it works. What is it used for? Sometimes it can be pretty brutal for the script writers, or at least they think so. sometimes there is a resistance from having somebody else to dabble with our text. But this is such is our work, and this is how you write a script. The script is for the cast and the crew. This is a document which is supposed to be practical. It is supposed to help you create a movie and not to serve your ambitions. And now I wrote to myself that the first stage of research is most important for me. It is difficult and it is time consuming, but it legitimizes us as authors. It shows that we have done our job. This first stage gives us power in the fourth stage, because if you made the research, you know what it's all about. You know the whole background. By talking to the cast and crew, you will be able to defend each idea in this script. If not, you will be eaten up. They will start to they will take your they will take your script to pieces. So if in order to defend it, you have to know all the motivations, all the details, why every decision was made. With the research, there's another thing that it seems not very sexy. That's the first thing. And it's not well treated by producers. And that's a very difficult part. Because producers don't want to spend money on research, because research doesn't bring you anything. It doesn't have any document. It just costs money, so it's not very comfortable as a situation to the producer. So only after a research you can tell if the script will or will not appear. So this is even more difficult for the producers, when after half a year of spending money they learn there will be no script. It's not easy for them to accept, but it's their job in a way. I think that it's easier is if they may take this decision in the very beginning, rather than at some other stage there would be a problem with the movie. A good producer could make it possible for a scriptwriter. They should be aware that out of several ideas that were undergoing research, there'll be only one appearing. So this is the situation is, all the four that will be cast away, because it's 1 to 5 is, I would say, this proportion is normal. But let's say 2 will get very far, and only after maybe many months of work it occurs that there is no movie, because the movie can be somewhere and there can be not. I have somebody told me, I'm giving a name. I decided I have to make it into a movie, and I got deeper and deeper, and I didn't find any movie there in a way that I would think that there is something that moves me, that I can build a conflict, that I can base a story on this. Moreover, one of such examples was related to the fact that at the same time Cezary Łazarewicz was writing a book about it, but he couldn't finish that book. And when the producer told me, when the producer was talking, he said, Łazarewicz is writing a book about it. I said, yes, but why cannot he finish it? He said, I don't know. He will probably finish it soon. And I should have felt warned. Why can't he finish it? And the same worked out, the same appeared during the work over the script. Something that looked extremely attractive at a first glance. Later it occurred to be totally I would say totally empty in the artistic sense. So we had to delete it after a few months of work. We had 2 scripts written for a series, and we deleted everything, and we started from the very scratch again. of course, I know that you can have you say that I have a comfort and of doing things like that, and people don't discuss with us anymore. Yes, so they can discuss, but we see that it doesn't work. But I think this is honest towards the producers, and it's good when you see that something is going the wrong way. It's good to stop the horses, hold the horses, and say we're not going further, because that would be a disaster. It usually ends up in a disaster. I think, like, so making the saying is true that if a good script might end up as a bad movie, but the bad script will never end up as a good movie. And I think this is true. So I wanted to say, because this is for me is pretty practical, that and maybe I recommend that you ask me some questions, because I'm here for you, and I got carried away a bit. What does it mean for me, research, and how I approach this, so that because this is experience what people have, and they can shorten your path. So the most important thing is to have the researching team. It's not good to make a research yourself. It's good to have 1-2 people who would help you do the research, and who will cause that in some way you will be able to reflect your ideas. You can bounce your ideas against somebody, that you can work on the script immediately. That when you're talking to someone, somebody will tell you, this is more interesting. Research, apart from this, is used to gain a perspective. And the other person, especially during discussions, sometimes, when our focus disperses, it's not like two people get out of focus at the same time. It's very important to be focused all the time. It's a bit like leading an investigation. You meet people, you go there, you do an investigation. We are interested in different things than the police, but we are leading an investigation. So, as I said, create a team. The second one, meeting live people. Later research, documentary research about pictures. AI will do that for us. AI is doing a great job when it's selecting picture for myself. I'm giving a certain requirements to picture generators, and I get the fantastic pictures for this, and it, of course, it can give me also great titles, but of course it will not read it for me. So when I'm looking for things for research, like which month can you start to milk a cow, I don't need even AI for this. It's enough to have a Google. I mean, it does great work in finding the references, the bibliography, but AI doesn't do one thing. Maybe it will at some point, meeting with live people. And I think that this is the most important stage. Do not treat this slightly. So if you have a situation that I had recently, I meet with the witnesses of the events or participants of the events I'm writing a script about. First, I see what sort of people these are. I see how they live, how they move, how they dress, what is their approach to the world. I can see in them something surprising. I'm starting to feel those people. I know how to lead that character. I saw that character. I can think about him. I can go with him. He starts to live with me. But this is, of course, there are also things that he said or she says, but also in case of historical movies, where the participants of events that we're interesting for us are dead. It's interesting to meet people who are experts on what we are interested in, not only to make our world more credible, because you can always give your script to the consultants and experts. He said, for example, they flushed the toilets differently in Middle Ages because they didn't have the flushes. These are details. Nevertheless, it's good to meet those people, because in discussions they tell you much more than in books. You can also ask them. Their knowledge is very broad. They give you anecdotes. Many things are cast away from the books, and these are things that might be interesting to us. Especially scientific books have their own rules. So certain tales or stories that can be funny for us, which create a certain mood, the situations that I was talking about, they're being rejected, they're being erased from the books, but these people remember them. They like those stories. Of course, you can do the same story as they did and go through the archives throughout Poland, but then you will have to the research will take 35 years, and I don't know if you will have enough strength to realize your movies. Record and note down. Research. You have several dozen of hours of recordings. It's not always easy to listen to that. Of course, you can come back to things, but it's good to have those points noted down, and out of those points, it's easy to show where we spoke that. But out of the notes, you can see where we spoke about it, so it's easier to pinpoint your recording. Also, note things around, like how are people dressed up, what sort of hair do they have, what sort of dog they have. This is very important in writing letters. People tend to overlook this, and this is extremely important because that gives you also a great jolt to your imagination. It starts to work with live people, and writing is much easier. So talk, read everything, read non-stop. Read stupid things, wise things, newspapers, books, things that are closest to our topics, to our script, as well as those who are further away. Watch as much as you can, and go to places related to your scripts. Always go there. Always see by yourself. You can discover incredible things related to what happened there just by looking at a location. Suddenly understanding what was the space our protagonists were moving around, how this space determined them, how did it look in facing a human being, how, if somebody had to go from a parish house to the church, was it over a hill or over a valley? Was a wind there? Was there a river? All this can be meaningful in a story, and understanding why our protagonists did things in one way or not the other. Okay, you can change it later, but it's important to see things. What is the reality we're talking about? If we're talking about the 17th century, okay, let's read about 17th century, but go to places which represent 17th century. If you're talking about some protagonist you don't know, go to the place where he lived. Where did he go to school? How he lived? What the bed he was sleeping in? What sort of cigarettes he smoked? Everything at some point might be of importance. All this will be coming back in your work. At some point you will come back, you will remind yourself of some strangest detail, and it will be important somehow. Being at the level of script, you can be very, very detailed. On the set, you can't pay attention to detail anymore. Sometimes you have no time for work. So quite often I work with my father, and we discuss research and script writing, but he does big researches. But he says it used to be different. Of course, it used to be different, but you had 100 filming days or more, and I think that this caused also that apart from this, the research was also paradoxically done during the set, during the work. There was more time, and there's no time right now. You have very little time on the set. You try to shrink it as much as possible. That's why the time for working on set is the time where you can work on the detail. This pre-production has a certain time, 5-6 weeks. So a good script underlines a good detail. It's not that you have to describe the world like Georges Perec He described every detail of a room. You should know which details are important and which details, in what way they talk about your protagonist. And it seems it's a word. There are such details like in the United States, I went to the Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh, and in this museum, what drew my attention are his corsets, because Warhol was shot by one of the people from his inner circle, Valerie Solano, who was a dramatist. She was who became finally a homeless person, and she shot Warhol. She decided that she will not be able to bear him anymore, and he was living with those corsets. He had a bullet through his side, and he had to walk on corset. So if somebody, what defined Warhol for me, this was corsets. The second one was his wig, and the third one was his nose, which he took. He had an operation. He had a complex about his nose, and he was sort of focused on his nose. If I were, which three things have to be put in the script about Warhol, would be those three things. No other things would be interesting for me. These three define my character. Corset tells me how the character moves and what is his life problem. The nose tells me about his focus on aesthetic medicine and his complex of being a Lemka and being Slovak, and having the scene in Warhola. And the wig tells me about the lack of acceptance of his external looks and his fear of getting old. Warhol was all dressed up. These are the three things that I would mention, and I would focus on only those three things in the script. But in order to understand them, you need to make a good research about Warhol to be able to use them. But it is so that I think you can spend your whole life doing research. You can go from one place to another. Knowledge is infinite. Associations are infinite too. You can go from one topic to another, and you have to ask yourself a question: when you should stop researching? With time, you have to go. That's the first thing. You have to go narrower with your research. You need to start to channel it towards the things that are of interest to our work. I finish research, for example, when I get certain repeatability, when I feel I start to hear the same stuff that I made a full circle. It means if I made a full circle, okay, this is the moment when I know enough that I can start to tell the story. That the increment of information is disproportionately small. And there's more and more noise, which it does not give me anything. And to some extent, it does not allow me to... it makes me... I don't want to follow that story anymore. So that's when I finish the research. And it occurs that after ending that research, to a large extent, you have the script in your hand. You know a lot of stuff. Right now, it's a very difficult thing. You have to sit down and write, because you have no other choice. You have those unforgiving few months of writing, because you're sitting on a script. You're not generally writing it. Being a scriptwriter is an unforgiving job. You are alone in some way, so I recommend a writer's room and people to build teams, but in a way it's a lonely job. If you compare this writing about values to what I had on set, in my case the adrenaline was much lower. I can't say that I was too excited when I got to the set and I saw when it all started. So we have this scribbler's job, but the scribbler's job, of course, you have a different view on streamings, on how the film environment changes. I think this is much more complicated than many people try to represent. However, I am sure of one thing: that the entrance of big American players to Poland caused first that the recognition of the scriptwriter's job in the US. It is as a highly respected job. Of course, you could see that when they went on strike, because everything starts from you, from the script. I am lucky enough that we are all creating some form of a team, and so that we all know each other. And I'm talking about the crew with whom I work, but also with Janek and his crew and his team. And of course, we have certain common points between those teams. I know very well Bartek Karczmarek because we work together. Marek Warszewski, Mirella, who's doing makeup, Veronika, who does costumes. We all know each other very well, and we work together, and we know how we work. And so there is no separation of myself from the crew, and nobody would even come up with such an idea. So it's great for a scriptwriter, and I really wish that to everybody. If you're not writing for yourself, because if you're writing for yourself, you are also in a team with yourself. But if you're writing for somebody else, the people from your crew are able to help you a lot, and you can explain a lot of stuff with them, and they know you enough that if something if you wrote down something, they know that this is important. So if you say that if she has a jeans skirt, and I know and I put that in the script, Weronika Orlińska knows that this is for some reason important, and she has to find this jeans skirt for the girl. So the teamwork and team spirit is most important, and sometimes scriptwriters are set apart from the process, but this is not good. When we were with Janek, he asked me if I am during the rehearsals. I am during the reading rehearsals. I meet with actors, unless I have something else to do, and then I leave it to themselves. But I'm not there to discuss. I'm there to until the end, I have the most knowledge about the story. The script writer has if he did the good research, you have the best knowledge. I'm there to say, yes, this had a chance to take place. This could not take place because of this on that, and I have arguments. And good preparation, research preparation, allowed me to do this. I will also tell you, I wrote it down, writing what research does and gives. It's always good to have something more practical than very lofty. Of course, we're living in a world of pitchings. I do recommend that you come here to listen about pitchings here. Concerning pitching, some script get-togethers. So some people exaggerate with that, but there's too much of it. But I still think that you can ask yourself especially when you go to the workshops, labs concerning script writing, meet with script doctors. Then you can ask yourself a question: is this script still ours, or was it minced so much that it has nothing to do with me? Because it can happen, and I feel that the research can help you keep control over the text, because you know more. You know something that the other people who manage that text or process that text who didn't know, and then their advice are of a very practical nature. They are to help you to tell certain stories, but not content related, because nobody who doesn't know your world is able to give you content related advice. I don't think so. And in terms of practical, like dramaturgical narrative advice, let's say, let's delete that character, delete that scene, add a scene here, move that scene there, then absolutely yes. Research allows you to keep this text under control and say, I will not delete this guy because in this story it was this and that, and this character did this and that, and there's no counter argument for that. The research doesn't always tell you what a given story is about, what's the topic of the story. Quite often these are things which are not very straightforward. One story, one event contains hundreds of stories and potentially hundreds of movies. It allows you to take a certain point of view. You can create a real credible characters. And it also gives you a feeling which is very important when writing, especially when you're writing such things as a script, where the script is it's a sort of technical writing. In literature, we're carried by language. In the script, the language should not carry us, because if it would, then we would be met with the strange face expressions of our film crew. So this is a very technical documentary, but the research allows us to manage the material. It gives us this feeling of power and control. So we're able. So paradoxically, it allows us to limit ourselves. So we do not have to prove anything, and will not give in to our thoughts and our language. Imagination is the greatest thing in the world, but it can sometimes lead you astray. So it's good to have it under control. You have to have tools to keep it under control, and such a preparation with an archive will allow us to do this. You can take as much as possible from the research. So this archival approach to writing, you use the previous sometimes in other texts. You can find something there. These texts start to get deeper, and or maybe I'm just going crazy and things are starting to get a bit deeper, and I do have a certain conspiracy theory, but no, jokes aside, I think it helps you in prepping, in documentation, on the set. It helps the crew to work faster. You can tell where to whom to go, what to do, when to go. This is very helpful for everybody. So you can always tell to the producer, listen, I'm not doing that for myself. I'm doing that for your whole crew, for your whole movie, because I will be able to tell everyone, the director, the scriptwriter, the DOP, the set designer, where to look for information, whom to ask about a given information. So I wrote that down for myself, but working on a script is like working of actor over a role. This is also getting into the heads of those people and observing the movements of your protagonists. This also allows you, during the training, it allows you to talk to the actors how they should do things, and actors are great because they doubt everything you say. So they give counter arguments. So, but if you defend that, they will always follow the text. If you cannot defend this, they will not follow the text, and they will try to do their own way. You will lose certain control over this, and you might get up with not your movie, or with something you didn't want to do. If you are well prepared, if you have the preparation you need, you will always defend it in work with the actors, or you will explain to them together with the actors. You can deepen that, and not to mention that you can also say to the actor, go meet that person, and this is how you should behave. And moreover, I must say that for myself, for me, it's also like going out of your bubble. You always go to other people. You see something different. I remember when I made the research. It was surprising for me how, for example, when I was entering to people's houses, to their interiors, what they have on their walls, what is their approach to church, what is their approach to politics, what they do. This is extremely interesting for me. As somebody said, the scriptwriter should always take a bus. I mean, there is something in it. You should listen to the language, look at the people, be closer to them. I also have an impression, recently I wrote it down here, that humanistic work right now is our work in archives right now. Discovering archives is the most interesting thing right now in the history and in philosophy. Everything is based on working archives, so it's good that the movie also is coming back to that. This is an intellectual power of research. It's practical one. Film is very technologically au courant. It is very well ahead, but intellectually the film is very much backwards in terms of humanistic debates of where we are. Film is quite often much behind literature, for example. And I believe that such approach to research is a deeper touch of a narrative element, like of philosophy and anthropology. This is something that you should do due to the certain intellectual transparency. I also wrote down to myself here for myself that it also shows, if you do a research, it shows you do not have you're not in a hubris. People tend to be to think that they're intellectually prepared. The research makes a real intellectual preparation, but you have to be humble. So certain humility is very important. You don't know everything, and it's always like this. So it's always good to ask, just like you ask about more experienced filmmakers about practical things, and it's good to ask people about our topic. And to end with, there's the issue of AI, and I think that it's a great tool. At the end, the sum is everybody has the pen, but not everybody writes books. And I think that with AI, it will be the same story. That right now, you can create a lot of worlds in AI for your scripts, but these worlds will always be dependent on you. So I think it's good to be well prepared for them. That's my impression. So let's not give up or decide that AI will do everything for us, because it will do a number of things. It will be a great tool and it will help us. It will make great movies itself, but it's not that humans will not want to make their own movie, their own films. So this is what I would tell you about research, and I would encourage you to do that. Maybe it's not the easiest topic and not sexy, but it's very important. And I'm telling everyone with whom I work that for me, it's the most important one. That for me, it states what sort of it proves what sort of scriptwriter you are. You can ask me questions now. Thank you. At different stages of working on research during meetings with live people, are you only listening and you have no expectations, and only then you have some thesis that you're verifying, or do you have like a leading thought and you want to to follow? Or let's say you meet a person you doesn't want to open, and he says, I'm not good for this. Well, that as to thesis, I never have a thesis. Of course, there are things I want to ask, which are sort of knowing on me. I get prepared for those meetings. I know who am I meeting, but I never have a thesis that I'm saying. I'm not forcing anyone. Initially, I listen. I ask questions which will be interesting for me, that can inspire me, or subconsciously I feel that it could be good for me. But generally, I'm listening and I don't force any narrative. As to the second question, how do you open open people up? I usually work with Zuza Lubińska, and she's much more open than I am. She does the research for me, and and usually it's not easy for me to open talks, and I ask questions, very technical questions, and she asks much better questions about emotions. She asks how people feel. She's able to get into small talk, and she she disarms those people very quickly. I can't do it myself. I also have a problem that during the research I heard sometimes traumatic stories, very, very, very hard stories, very difficult stories. I don't know how to accept something like that. I'm working on myself, but I don't know what to say. I always feel a bit embarrassed and a bit unsure. And Zuza can always, she can cry with that person honestly, or grab her by the hand. So she leads that discussion much better. So I think it's always, well, but for example, I'm the bad policeman, for example. So I say, can you hear how she was? This is all made up. There's no. She said this and she said that. And Zuza says, like, really? No, she was telling the truth, and I'm. No, she was lying to us. So it always looks like this. I'm this skeptical guy, and this is what it looks like. I do also have experience that people like to talk when you come to them. And this is a practical thing that comes from my experience that I can tell you, because quite often it's about money, research and money. I have experienced that if somebody wants money for the research, there will be a problem with them. Then you know that if he wants to money for the talk, there will always be a problem with this. Not only what they will, there's always some sort of a problematic situation afterwards. 90% of the people with whom we spoke, they spoke with us for nothing at all. They just wanted to share the story. We come back to those people. Zuza is in touch with them. So we are a good team. We go around a lot, and we divide. And Zuza always records, and I always note. I also make drawings, and I draw a lot during. I'm drawing things that are of interest to me. And then I come back to this. Sometimes I don't know what I drew, but sometimes I come back to it, and that's how my memory works. I recollect a lot of things that I drew. I have two questions, because you said some of those projects are cast away, but you give yourself a time to find people for such stories, and just finding the people is not always easy. So I have two questions. When do you know that things should be rejected, and do you have any sort of trick how to find conflict, how to find the key to the story? at different stages, I know what should be rejected. Different sometimes I realize very late that something should be rejected. I had, as I told you, we had two projects that we almost had the filming set prepared, and then we said no. So sometimes it is so that when I have a conflict, I know that there will be story. I'm searching for this conflict, and when I don't find it, I let go. When I see a conflict and I'm looking whether it holds water or not, if it carries the story or not. Right now, I have a situation when I wrote a script, which I hope will soon be put into production. I had 3 characters, out of which is right, and each one is in conflict with the other one, and it's on about one case. And then for me, this is it's a self-propelling story. This has to go. These people have to meet for many reasons. Every meeting is a conflict. Every conflict carries the story. So getting these people, so finding this conflict, maybe finding this conflict did not take too much time. It was not time consuming, but then getting it to a more precise shape took longer. But yeah, this script was written pretty quickly. A quick question. You said about the situation. You mentioned the situation when one person says something and then there's something incoherent with what they say. Do you sort of confront that person? You say there's something wrong there, and you're trying to get deep in that, because sometimes it might be a matter of misunderstanding, and sometimes about the lie. So this is intuitive. Sometimes you feel whether somebody's lying or maybe you're trying to cue that person in. I'm not saying, hey, you stop there. Seems you're lying. No, but I'm coming back and said, you said like this, and then you said, how does this relate to one another? And then I see her reaction. I also have a feeling that not those who are introverts or closed people, they're not the worst ones, because when they open up, they start to speak. The worst are talkers, because they lie well. They turn your attention away. I had a project which was related, well, with people who are dependent on substance dependent, and substance dependent people are professional liars. So these talks had like you were talked for 3 hours, and then you didn't really know what you had. They were jumping from one topic to another. Here they told the story. They were excited here. It was all very, very interesting, but very confusing. When I later thought about that, there was no date, no piece of information was right. But this deluge of words made you want to leave that place. So being in the presence of a silent person is not easy, but this person finally says something. So when she agreed to a meeting, she took she had to take into account that she would want to say something. Never in my life I ate so much cake when I made a research for Haweliusz. I was so that maybe I was raised like that. I feel like if somebody's giving me cake, sort of presenting me with cake, it's good. It's good if I eat that cake. And she says, "Oh, I baked it myself." Then you have to eat it. And there are cases that ladies who were the wives of those deceased mariners, they prepared those cakes, And these cakes were really tasty. Of course, I couldn't eat a lot of them. And Zuza doesn't eat them because she's always on diet. Zuza, it can be like this, that I always eat those cakes and I eat out almost. I can't even move. I can't look at those cakes. And you say that, sorry, I can't. That's one thing. But then there was another case. It was okay. But when the captains we've met started to make cakes, and they're like beginners cakes, that was bad. That was so bad. And they were standing there, and you could see that there was a this retired captain who will never go to the sea again, and he started to prepare cakes, and you know that it's not his forte. And I had to eat 2 captain's cakes like this, and then I was really sick, but I had to eat them. But Zuza knows me to such an extent that when I'm saying, I have these subconscious phrases that I start to say when I'm tired and I want to leave. That, for example, all right then. When I'm starting to say, all right then, it means I want to finish the discussion. I'm out of stamina. So we have those signs that she knows that at this point, we did have a misunderstanding before, that we were in a meeting where we were to talk with a person who survived this disaster. He was in this sort of 2 degrees Celsius Baltic Sea. He survived it somehow. They got him out. He fell into the water again, but he survived by miracle. But he also had a very attention-seeking wife who always was getting. She said the real tragedy was the one that she survived, not him, because she was for 4 hours she was a widow, and that was the longest 4 hours of her life, and she was talking about those 4 hours on end, and I just couldn't bear it anymore. I was drawing all sorts of stuff, and I just was saying, all right then. Zuza didn't catch that, and suddenly this lady says, oh, okay, so what if you stayed with us for a supper? And I think, and I see Zuza, yeah, fantastic. And I'm kicking her under the table and saying, no, we have this on. No, please stay. And we have to stay 2 hours more to listen about those fucking 4 hours of her being widow. This sailor totally shut up. He didn't say anything. He was totally dominated totally by his wife. He started to put Rolling Stones concerts somewhere on a TV set. No, I mean, that was, even such things happen. So I would say, when I was talking about this research, such a beautiful things, but this is also hard reality. I will tell you what it really is. Yeah. Now I finished my lecture. This is also horrible toil, but it can be sometimes funny. So hotels that you meet in Poland. Once we stopped in a hotel outside Mielno. I don't know if you've been to Mielno out of season. If there was a cliff, everybody would be jumping off that cliff. Mielno, out of season, is like this gloomy, those gloomy booths. The wind is blowing across some desolate funfair. The sea is fantastic, of course, but there are like strange people walking around. You don't know what they're doing. And I thought to myself, okay, we came to Mielno, and Zuza organizes those trips of ours. So we came to Mielno, and these were we just started our cooperation. We didn't know each other that well, and I say, not the best, but at least the hotel is great on the sea. And I must say that one thing is sure, the filmmakers love hotels, because hotels are the life. You live in hotels, so there was the hotel on the sea, beautiful Baltic Sea, and I say, where do we have this hotel? We have to. It was not that hotel, but Zuza znalazła, she found some hotel in Booking. It seemed great. At some road where we had to get some strange keys. I went to my room. I fell asleep. I got up in the morning. I saw I looked through the window, and my eyes fell out when I saw what was there. It was like a dump yard for old cars, with sad birds, in the mud. Everything was covered with mud. And when I saw how Zuza is driving her car, I decided we will drive my car. So that because she would yeah, she was driving in such a way that when we were driving, talking, she was driving, and then suddenly she changed the lane in the motorway, and I was totally taken aback, and I decided that it's me who has to do the driving. But anyway, you shouldn't always believe the images on Booking.com. I once had a hotel without windows, a room without windows. So I think, following my research, I think I drove all around Poland. So this research was my big adventure. What's the people I've met, whom I met, where I was. I was in a sort of light penitentiary center in Kraków, where I could compare men's and male and female cells. At females, I mean women also accepted me in the prison, really nicely with cakes, etc. And then we go to the guys' cell, and it was really bad. The same design, the same size, the same people per square meter. And everything was like smaller, everything was destroyed, nothing nice. It was horrible. These are the things you can find in research, that you have a woman walking, and we talk there with girls, and they say, oh, the carpet lady. Why the carpet lady? Oh. The carpet lady is very stupid. I'm asking, what about the carpet lady? Why? Well, she's the carpet lady because she hit her husband with a hammer in his head. He put him in a carpet, and she put him in the river. Yeah, why is she stupid? She's very stupid. She went to the court, and she confirmed that the husband tormented her, and she got 3 years. So she decided to appeal, and she got 15 years. So she's very stupid. So that was about the carpet lady. And then recently we were in a meeting, and the meeting was about people who are detained in jails for a long time, and then leaving jails. And there's the brotherhood of those people who takes care of retrieving them to, resocializing them, putting them back to the society, because Polish penitentiary system does not help people come back to the society. They were great because they tried to be so accepting for what was happening, and they said, I'm not judging. Oh, he actually cut his neighbor to pieces and put him in the fridge, but who doesn't make mistakes in his life? I thought, well, okay, these are incredible meetings. It gives you such a drive for your script, because it's incredible how people speak, because it's something that you cannot fake, because it shows their very unique way of seeing reality, to which you don't have full access ever. You start to understand how they see the world, and teaches some basic empathy, which is very important in writing, this understanding. And exactly what this man said, this is how we should have behaved. We're not judging. Everybody can make a mistake. That's true. Well, he cut up the neighbor to pieces, and he put it in a fridge. This is also how we should be able to look at the people when writing a script. It's very difficult, but we should be able to evoke that in ourselves. It's not that. It's a different thing. Our internal conviction is different, and they are important. of course, but it's a different story when we believe that somebody should be in jail, etc. It's a separate story. But trying to understand the motives of everybody, how they behave, why they behave in such a way, and looking for some deeper reasons is very important. And now a very important question is, where do you depart from when you're writing? From different positions you can depart, but whether you depart from is humans good or bad? Are we doing yes to the world, or are we saying no to the world? For me, a human being is good. The world is extremely interesting, which fascinates me, and I say yes to the world. This is my stance and this is my approach. I respect another approach, and I know this. I have plenty of friends. I'm reading books about people who say the world is bad and the dangerous place. These are 2 points of view. It's not that one is better, the other one is worse. I don't know. It's like when you look at the city and you can see from window and then another window, and everybody looks from another window, but we're all looking at the same city. It's a point of view that we have, but it's our point of view, and this point of view determines how we work. And my point of view allows me, even at the worst stories and at the worst villains, to look at them in a way that I could say, to ask myself a question: what happened that this person became evil? Because I don't think he's evil from the outset. But some people say, what are you talking about? It's in a totally different. Yeah, it's a big philosophical a big philosophical question: where did evil come from? The only thing is, don't be hard-headed, and remember that people change during life. They go through a certain evolution. I was like 20, I was very radical. Then I was 30, I was in a very bad place in my life. And right now I'm here and my point of view changes. But it's good to see that point of life. And this is something I encourage you to do. Find your point of view on life, not the point of view that will be most commercial, that will be most saleable, but the point of view, or the one that will be politically correct. No, find your point of view on the thing, and do not be afraid to represent. The script should be your point of view on this city, on this reality around you, and then you are true to yourself and you're true to the people you write for. I have a question. If the stories are not based on facts, if you have an abstract idea and you don't know where it comes from, how do you do research, and where do you start research? That's an interesting question. I think it's individual. It depends on what sort of text it is. I believe that it's good to look for similar. Then it's a question of writing books or reading books, and I don't know, talking to a psychologist. It's good to talk to a psychologist sometimes. I have somebody like this. You always have some sort of imagination. It's good to understand how things are happening, and go to the people who know about this place. Let's say, if you say in inverted commas science fiction, we used to spend with Andrzej Dragan, for example, when we were preparing the science fiction movies. Andrzej Dragan is a Polish physicist, and we had meetings one after the other, which inspired us. We tried to understand quantum physics, which was a certain total impossibility, but it was good. What you have to find. The most important thing. It's good to meet wise people, and smart people. It's always something they will give to us. Okay, now I would like to thank you. Once again, thank you very much for the meeting. And
przepraszam, pomyłka, to będzie wszystko w